on the top. What do we want? When do we want it?
It's not a new problem, though it was once mainly a Dublin one. Nowadays, the nation's drug scourge is to be seen in the streets, pubs and parties in towns and cities across Ireland. Some areas are associated with open drug dealing and drug taking: crack cocaine, tablets and marijuana.
They're running it like a business. And the reason why they're running it as a business is because we in society are looking for the drug.
In cities and towns across Ireland, the smell of marijuana smoke commonly hangs in the air. But politically, there is something else in the air. A recent and controversial proposal by the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Drugs Use to decriminalise the possession of all drugs for personal use.
Decriminalisation is very different from legalisation. Decriminalisation is removing criminal penalties on personal use only.
It will be perceived as becoming tolerable by society. And that is the experience in Lisbon, that is the experience in Belgium, that is the experience in Germany.
It's commonly believed that many Gardaí turn a blind eye to drug use as opposed to drug dealing. But figures supplied to MEP Cynthia Ní Mhuircheartaigh showed 3,959 district court convictions for simple drugs possession in 2025.
Gardaí are still prosecuting people. That's 4,000 convictions. Many more were prosecuted.
Yeah, I would dispute that figure, because for every direction that we get back from the DPP's office for the sale and supply of drug, Section 15, there's also a subcategory of Section 3, which is the simple possession. So it's a coupled offence. And certainly all the files that crossed over my desk in 20 years as an inspector, there weren't many very solely on the simple possession.
Beyond inner city Dublin, there are different approaches. Court service figures for district courts nationwide show that for every conviction last year for selling or supplying drugs, there were over 3.5 for simple drugs possession. While the Oireachtas Committee does not recommend legalising drugs or drug dealing, some people who have experienced the sharp end of drug gang violence fear it could help to normalise their business. This woman, who we are calling Angela, lives outside Dublin. One day she answered a knock on her door. A man was outside telling her to pay a drug debt owed by her son.
I said, I don't owe nothing to nobody. Oh, he said, you do. And you're going to be sorry. Or your son owes it to me, but because your son is not here, you will have to pay it. No choice. I've never taken drugs. I've never bought drugs, I've never sold drugs, I've never had anything to do with drugs. Never. So I said, under no circumstances, I'm not paying you. Oh, you will pay. Oh, all kinds of threats. All kinds of threats. We'll burn you out, we'll catch you when you're out in the street.
Those verbal threats were backed up with physical violence. Windows in Angela's home and her car were targeted with baseball bats and rocks. Primetime visited her around the time that those attacks were happening and witnessed some of the damage, including her freshly smashed front window.
You don't sleep. You don't feel safe enough to sleep. All I do know is at one stage the doctor was giving me more tablets than I would take any time. The anxiety was crippling. Not knowing what was going to come to me door next. 6 months of fear.
In Angela's case, the attacks stopped after intervention from Gardaí.
And my only advice is talk, tell, inform the Gardaí. I know it's frightening. And I know you probably will still have trouble, but they will do everything for you that they have to do.
But when it comes to the type of gangs who intimidated Angela, what has been the experience in other countries where drugs were decriminalised?
The evidence from countries that have decriminalised, for example, Portugal, which decriminalised 25 years ago, is that it didn't have any noticeable impact. Portuguese police didn't find it harder to police organised crime. Actually, decriminalisation encouraged them to be better at doing investigations, investigative work. They weren't relying on low-level street seizures to justify their policing operations. They had to do more serious investigations, and as a result, their seizures went up.
And what about the drug buyer? Ruth Ann Barry was once addicted to heroin. She used to buy drugs here along the Liffey on Dublin's boardwalk.
I used to come to this boardwalk many years ago after I'd get my methadone on the clinic, and I suppose it was a space where you would buy and often sell drugs.
If the decriminalisation for possession of drugs were brought in at the time that you were in addiction, what difference would it have made?
It would have made a massive difference, because when you get a charge sheet, sometimes it's like, oh, well, I have one. It doesn't really matter if I get another one. And that's the mindset that you have when you're in that chaotic lifestyle, that it doesn't really matter if you get another one. You're already in the criminal justice system. So maybe it would have deterred me from going further into that cycle, because that was earlier on in my addiction.
If drugs possession is decriminalised, what will happen to Garda's search powers under the Misuse of Drugs Act?
They would lose the ability to search people purely if they suspect they're in possession of drugs for personal use. Currently they can. It's a very common reason given by police forces to stop and search people randomly on the street. The Gardaí do not gather data on how they use their search powers. But if we look to the UK, which is a really useful comparator, the police there have significantly relied on stopping and searching people for personal possession for their stop and search. And that has had a really negative effect on police-community relations, because only certain populations tend to be subject to those searches in the UK. If you're from a black community, particularly you're a young black man, or you're from a working class white community, you are far, far more likely to be subject to that kind of police stop and search. And the results are 90% of the time when people are stopped and searched in the UK for drugs, nothing is found. Not just drugs, no other offences are detected.
Gardaí have other stop and search powers, but the one under the Misuse of Drugs Act is widely used by Gardaí, and they are anxious to hold on to it.
I think it's important for the criminal justice system. I think it's important in the message to try and stop drugs. The Gardaí won't stop and search you for drugs if you're not buying drugs. The only way of stopping the sale and supply of the drugs is stop buying it, and then you won't be searched.
You being stopped and searched is quite embarrassing. You know, like, it's also public humiliation in front of your peers. But I suppose in order to have a safer society, the guards have to do their job. And that's how I see it. Like, many years ago, I wouldn't have seen it that way. You know, but I see it differently now.
But few believe a law and order approach will fix our drugs problem.
Addiction is a health issue. Well, we need to treat it as a health issue and not as a criminal issue. At the end of the day, our prisons are busting at the seams, they're overcrowded. And, like, not sending someone to prison is also cost effective. Defer them to a clinic, a treatment centre, a detox unit, a day programme. I think everyone deserves a chance in life.
And that report from Paul Murphy. Well, we're joined now in studio by Jennifer Murnane O'Connor, Minister of State with responsibility for the National Drug Strategy, and Senator Lynn Ruane, who is a member of the Joint Committee on Drug Use. And thank you both so much for coming into us this evening. Minister, I might come to yourself first, because I know you've already said that the government has no plans at the moment to decriminalise drug use, but Fianna Fáil did say in its manifesto that you would decriminalise drug use. So why the change of mind?
Well, what we are doing is we are what's called a health referral approach. So we are looking, as previous speakers have said, we are looking at a health-led approach for this, a referral on health. And that's what we believe is the right thing to do. And that's why today...
Since when, though? Because you believed a year and a half ago the right thing to do was to decriminalise
No,
drugs.
we have been working on this for a long time. And that's why today I launched the health referral scheme, which will start from the 1st of September. And this needs to be health-led through to give people that chance, if they have a very small amount of drugs for personal use, that they can go to the Gardaí. Then the Gardaí will lead them into the HSE. We have people working in the HSE that are trained to do this. They will then talk the person through if they need supports or services. So we will be giving people that chance now, that they won't have a criminal record. And I think that's important. We do need to give this chance.
But you will still stick to what you're saying, that you won't decriminalise drugs. So I suppose what I'm wondering is why the change of mind? happened from a year and a half ago when you went to the people with the manifesto saying that you would decriminalise drugs.
Yeah, well, we believe as a government this is the best pathway for someone that is maybe just trying to take drugs, and that we're giving them that chance that they can take a health referral. Look, I spent...
Sorry,
Sarah,
Minister, I'm just wondering what has happened in the last 18 months or so to change your mind?
Well, I, as Minister, this was the road that I took, working with my colleagues, and I feel, working with the departments, listening to parents, listening to teachers, that I believe myself this is the best way to go.
OK.
Sarah, sorry, I spent months and months trying to get HHC banned. Months, because it was a huge issue to make it illegal. And now then I'm asked then, will I actually then make drugs legal? And I don't believe for myself that is the way to go.
All right, is that fair enough, Lynn?
No, it's not fair enough. And the Minister hasn't been asked to make drugs legal. To be very, very clear, this committee and the last committee and the Citizens' Assembly called for a substantial and comprehensive health-led approach to drugs. If something is health-led, you wouldn't access it through the justice system. A policeman at his discretion and discrimination wouldn't be deciding whether you're going to get a health referral or not. In the press release that came out from the department today, it said on the first occasion, or I'm paraphrasing, but basically your first time. People who are in addiction, or Ruth Ann spoke about people who are potentially unhoused or in the city centre. So if you're likely to be caught once and once only, well, that feels like a very middle-class law to me. Because if we're talking about the people who are struggling with addiction, chronic addiction, that actually need health intervention, the likelihood of them only ever being stopped and searched and found in possession once is very, very unlikely. And it is at guarded discretion. So a guard can decide.
No, absolutely not. And I think, and first of all, I have to compliment Lynn on her work and the committee on the 161 recommendations. Your commitment and dedication. Look, really, there's a lot of work after being done.
But sure, you're going to ignore it.
No. But if you repeal Section 3 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977, you are legalising drugs. You are taking away the powers of the Gardaí.
It's misinformation. So
no,
to be very, very clear, under Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act is the stop and search powers. And under other sections is for cultivation, sale, supply. All of that still exists. Section 3 is only for personal possession, for personal use. Sale and supply remains in the statute book.
And do you have any concerns, Lynn, about what we saw in that report there, and others have suggested previously, that this would amount to a tacit approval of drug use by authorities, by government, if they were to legalise drugs for personal use?
I don't. The evidence around the world hasn't shown that. The UN, the World Health Organization are all saying that we need to decriminalise people, that you can't punish your way out of addiction, and punishment is not prevention.
Well, so the evidence, though, in Oregon isn't that, is it?
So
they reversed it in Oregon.
So I visited Oregon so they were promised investment at a very early stage. They weren't. They have a housing issue. They didn't have any safe consumption sites. They didn't have any other measures like Ireland or the report has to make sure that you don't have public consumption in the same way.
What about British Columbia? They're also reversing it.
So again, we're lucky enough to have British Columbia in front of us before the committee in the first interim report, and they said they did not want to roll back on decriminalisation. The problem was that they were concerned that the legislature hadn't introduced anything that they could use any sort of laws to move people on from public consumption.
Yeah, because what it led to was public use.
Increase in public use. They also had no safe consumption.
That, do they?
No, they also didn't have any safe consumption sites. But what they did was they said they wanted powers, which we have through our bylaws. We have powers. We move people on from parks if they're drinking in parks. We take their cans off them. Okay. So we do have the powers to do that.
Minister Jim O'Callaghan said recently that most people aren't prosecuted anyway for possession of a small amount of drugs. And again, we saw that in Paul's report. But actually, that doesn't appear to be the case. Oh, there were almost 4,000 convictions last year for people who were caught with a small amount of drugs in them. Those people's lives are sort of ruined or, damaged, certainly. Is that the right approach?
Well, look, as I said, this approach now from the 1st of September is what we're doing to make those changes. And this is what we have to do. We have to go with the health referral. So this is what we're doing, so that if you are caught with a small amount of personalised drugs, you can take the health referral scheme.
So the second time, can we expect that number, 4,000 convictions, can we expect a significant reduction in that under what you're going to bring in?
I really believe we could. But again, the second time will be up for the Gardaí to decide. That won't be within my remit. But can I say, look...
But does that not lead to the problem that Lynn is talking about there, that likely we're going to still see 4,000 convictions of people who actually need health help as opposed to a criminal conviction?
Well, we're going to review this. So this health referral is for a year, and then the health referral, we will review this. And it is important that we review it, as Lynn has said, and we look at this. But we need to make those changes. We have 460 services across the country. We had 15,500 people in treatment last year, and we see an increase in this. We want to make those changes.
Okay.
We want to, like, I delayed the drug strategy. Lynn and her committee asked me, I did, for a few months so that we could work on those 161 recommendations,
which
most of them will go into our new drug strategy, which will be launched in September.
We may have you back in a year's time to discuss it then and see how everyone thinks it's going. Thank you both very much for joining us.